What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best two-handed warrior build in Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon. So this is a full warrior build where we are going to be using two-handed swords to one-shot enemies and apply bleed, while also at the same time having the lifesteal, so that every attack we do will heal us back to 100%. We are going to be using relics like the starborn egg, which will give us 10% melee damage, while also having a lot of armor, but not too high enough, so that we would not reach a certain threshold. Our main playstyle is built around dashing in and out of fights, while one-shotting most weak enemies, and then using 2 to 3 swings for elite targets. This build is a bit different unlike other bruiser builds, because we won't stay super close to the target but actually dash in and out. This will be possible thanks to the skill tree and also the buffs. That will give us even more damage increase if our health is at 100%. So pretty much we will be a paladin that self-heals, is very relatively tanky, but can also do insane DPS and has great mobility. Also, if you're interested in buying other PC or console games with 50 or 70% discount, then check out Instant Gaming. For example, I want to buy Elden Ring, so we just click on Add to Cart, then click Pay, then input our details and pay. After payment is complete, we will receive activation key, then copy and paste the key in, and it's that simple. So what are you waiting for? Click my link description and check out Instant Gaming for yourself. So let me show you the build, and at the start we have weapons. So first we got my god roll sword, which is called the Poison Knight's Greatsword. As you can see, his base damage is decent, but because of our setup, we get from 330 to about 360 damage with 5+% critical hit chance. I got this weapon at around level 22, right when I got to the forest gate. At that time, my weapon was doing about 150 damage, and I could not believe it that I got a 2x upgrade. Then my second backup weapon is the Bloodsting. This one is mainly used against bosses, so I start the fight with hitting the boss once with a sword, and then switching right away to the Poison Knights, and then go from there. I mainly like this weapon because each hit will apply a bleed, but to be honest, any other weapon as a secondary will work fine as well. I can see also a good setup with a one-handed sword and a shield, and as most skill trees also work great with a one-handed swords, so we are going to be basically having the same buffs as with a two-handed weapon. To be honest, the second slot is more of a personal preference, depending on how good drop you get. Then slot 3 is empty for safety while talking to NPCs and just general exploration. And lastly we got slot 4, which is for the ranged weapon, usually a bow. The third empty slot might sound odd, but trust me, it saves lives literally. I've accidentally attacked friendly NPCs mid-conversation just because I bumped an attack button. That one slip can mess up an entire questline, or turn peaceful zones hostile. And then the bow is also absolutely essential. You will encounter quests that involve chasing down deer or targeting distant enemies. Without a ranged weapon you are screwed, so having the flexibility to switch is awesome. Then next we have our gear. I've tested different setups being in the medium and heavy category, and I didn't notice almost any difference whatsoever. So if you're a warrior, then 100% go with the heavy category. Just don't cross into the super heavy, as that will actually dramatically decrease your movement speed, which we don't want to happen. Then first we got our helmet called the Valkyr's Berserker's Helmet. I got it from the first map, called the Horns of the South, somewhere around the Allmother's Temple. In that place you can kill those guards and get bunch of gear with very high armor, and plus it just looks cool. Then next for my totem I got the Valkyr's Berserker's Totem. It increases critical hit chance by 20%, but also increases incoming damage by 25%. To be honest, I'm looking for an upgrade, but as it has 0 weight and my armor is already insanely high, so I can easily take this downside. I got it from also the same place as the helmet. Next for my gloves I got the Knight's Gauntlets, which increase max stamina. These are just basic gloves that will drop 24/7, especially in the second map, so getting it should not be a problem. Then next for the chest we got the Valkyr's Berserker's Armor. I mainly like this chest piece because it has the highest armor stat that I've seen, and of course again it looks super cool. I got it from the same place as the helmet and the totem. Next up we have the Calm's Finger Necklace, which increases the critical hit chance by 5%. This necklace I got super early in the game, somewhere around the first quest in around this location. Then for first ring we got actually 2 options. So what I mainly prefer is to go with the Ring of Toughness, as it increases my encumbrance by 25. In this game, if you pick up everything, then you will end up being overweight literally in few minutes, so this ring is more of a quality of life. However, for most players for maximum DPS, I would recommend to go with the Old Steel's ring that increases both the max health and stamina by 3%. This ring is basically worth 3 level ups if you spend them on the attributes. All of the rings are very RNG, so just try to open every chest and inspect every job. Then next we have pants, and for them we are using the Knight's Greaves. I got these from fighting the knights around this abandoned stronghold. These are just basic legs for the max stamina and great armor. Next up we have our second ring, and this one for sure is a god roll. So we are using the perfect ring for a warrior that increases our physical damage by 5%. I've never seen a better ring, and I'm pretty sure that I got it from a boss or by opening a locked chest. But again, this one is more of an RNG drop. And then finally for boots, we got the Knight's Boots with armor and max stamina increase. As we are a warrior, so our objective is to build up both the stamina and armor, and we mainly achieve this from our gear pieces. Again, I got it from the abandoned stronghold, somewhere around here. But to be honest, I'm pretty sure that I've got duplicates of it in the second forest map also. Then next up, let's take a look at our relic choices. I would recommend to only start by using the relics at around level 25, as they're quite rare in the first map, but in the second one you will get them more often from the jobs. So as far as relics go, for each item you can unlock 2 relic slots, and then put the armor relics on the armor and the weapon relics on the weapons. I recommend to do it only on the blue gear if you get a good roll, but on weapons you mainly want to do it on your main one. As I previously said that I got a super high damage 2-handed sword, so I bought 2 slots for 500 gold each, and attached 2 stubborn eggs that each gave me plus 10% additional weapon damage. You can get these jobs from the second map, or also buy them from the Kuanach city, a vendor called the Banksy. She will sell them for 400 gold each. And at the endgame, your goal should be to have all of these gems on all of your weapons, but of course prioritize your main first. And then again, we want to do the same thing for gear. Just this time, my choice of relics is Unfading Ember, that ignites enemies when they hit me. And then the second one is the Eternal Guarding Seal, which increases my max health. Again, you can get these as jobs from the second map, or also buy them from the same vendor. But then for the rest of your gear, you just want to stack these Eternal Guardian Seals as much as possible. However, you don't want to have multiple Unfading Embers, because they won't stack and one is enough. Also, on top of this, remember that you can retrieve relics for 0 gold, so even if you make the wrong decision or get a better item, you will not lose the relic. The only thing you lose is the gold that you spent on unlocking the slots. Next up, let's talk about upgrades. So again, I recommend to only start doing it after about level 25, and when you get to the second forest map. So first up we got the handcrafting, and this place I personally haven't touched yet. All of these recipes that I've got just haven't seemed to be good enough, so if you find something decent and have materials, then for sure craft them, but if not, then don't worry about it too much. Then second we have our upgrade section. This place is actually decent but only for gear. If you take a look at upgrading my sword, then it will cost over 7000 gold, and this is incredibly expensive, even though I have all the required materials. However, if you take a look at the gear, then it's much cheaper. So if you have a lot of materials and a bit of money and know that you got good gear and you just want to upgrade it, then go ahead. And then lastly we have the armor weight reduction. Personally, for the warrior build, this section is pretty much useless, unless you are about to finish the game and have way too much money, as we are already in the heavy category, so reducing the weight won't really impact our build whatsoever. This section could be useful for mages or the assassins, but unfortunately not for us. Then next up, let's take a look at the attributes, and if you want to follow my build, then remember that you can use the origin potion to reset all of your attributes and skills. You will get a bunch of these potions every 2 to 3 hours, so I recommend using a bunch of them to test out different builds. So first we get 16 strength, and we want to stack high damage and stamina for dashes, so having really good strength is requirement. You can see that my melee damage is 371%, while also having good sneak damage of 290%, which is especially useful for those one-shots on unexpected enemies. Then second, I'm using 8 endurance. This will give us max health, encumbrance increase and the stamina regen. To be honest, I mainly went with endurance, specifically at 8, as most of my high armor gear had an 8 strength and 8 endurance requirement, so I recommend for you to as well get 8 in both. And then lastly, I also got perception at 6. At one point I tested both setups, so going full strength with 8 endurance, or also investing a little bit in perception, and I found that my DPS increase was more with this setup, so this gives us 5% critical damage, 1% critical hit chance, and 8% sneak damage. And overall we have 181 critical damage, with 37% melee critical hit chance, so every third hit will usually 100% crit, and in future I'm looking to increase this number to about 50%. The way that you should look at the attributes at the beginning is to reach the minimum gear requirements, and then afterwards put everything into more what you're lacking. So I already have great defense, so the only thing I want to improve is damage per each hit. Then next up we have our skill tree, and this is usually the place that makes or breaks the build. So first up in the strength category, we want to go into the general and get these. So increase melee damage by 25%, then staggered enemies take 60% more damage. Then also, when we are below 30% health, we increase melee damage. And lastly, for each one of our weapons weight, we get increased damage by 2%. So my sword weight is pretty much 4, so I get about 8% DPS bonus. Then next up we want to go into the two-handed category and get these 3. So attacks with the two-handed weapons will increase 20% DPS. Then afterwards, just invest 1 point into the reduced stamina cost when using heavy attacks, because then we want to get this one, aka one of our main cores of our build, that gives us 4% lifesteal for every attack we do with a two-handed weapon. For this build we prioritize mobility, self-healing and the one-shots, and we don't want to upgrade the heavy attacks, as we will not be using them. Then next we got endurance, and open the health section and then get these 2. So increase max health by 10%, and each enemy killed increases our damage by 5%, and this can stack up to 50%. It is hard to test if healing is meant with the potions or food, or if the lifesteal also counts as a self-healing, but even if it does, it gives us free 5% DPS bonus just for spending 1 point, which is very worth it. Then next we go into dexterity, and more specifically take a look at the movement, and spend few points to get that dash cost 60% less stamina, and we also get to do 1 extra long dash. This is great for our build. We won't be using block, so dashing in and out of fights can start costing quite a lot of stamina, so this pretty much makes it that we can dash 24/7. Then next we want to go into perception and invest some points into the critical hits. As I said, I now want to focus on getting increased critical hit chance and damage, and this one is the way we can do it. So we want to get 6% critical hit chance, and in future I also want to unlock all the way to here. That will give us 10% critical damage increase, which I also imagine with all 4 tiers will give us about 25%. And then finally we want to go to practicality and pretty much unlock this whole armor tree. This will give us things like increased armor. Then each endurance point will give us more melee damage. Then also we will deal additional 20% of your armor as damage and much more. This is a great category and I'm going to be using it at around level 30 to 40. Then as for one of the last things, let's quickly take a look at the King's Soul. You will get this somewhere before level 20, after completing one of the main quests. And what I did is unlock the Excalibur with the passive, which now when using the King's Soul, our damage is increased by 50% for each enemy killed, which is a massive DPS boost. And now last but not least, let me quickly show you our main gameplay and the playstyle. So as I mentioned, our main goal is to dash in and out of fights while pretty much one-shotting most enemies. Our setup is built for insane damage, armor and mobility, as long as you can keep dashing and attacking enemies, so you should be pretty much always at 100% HP. We want to self-heal after every attack to 100, because then it increases our damage even further. On top of this, we also want to try to hit your first shot on the strongest enemy, as we want to do as much damage as possible thanks to the sneak attack bonus. And then lastly, I also sometimes use the block, but only just once if I see an easy opportunity, but never do it more than once, because if you block multiple attacks consecutively, because then you will lose out on stamina quite quickly, as our build is not meant for it. Also, don't just always right click, but in between you can also hold the right click, and sometimes switch between the attack types, so that you could target weak enemy spots. And as far as bosses go, try to time the dash when they're doing the heavy attacks, and then just dash again close to them and get behind, and this will do great DPS. And finally, I personally keep forgetting, but remember to once in a while use your middle mouse button for the super OP attack. I mainly use them for sneak attacks at the beginning of the fight. So let me know what you think about this build in the Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my previous video, where I showed the top 10 secret tips that make your builds even more powerful. So click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.